Excellent. All right, well, thank you very much, everybody, for sharing. So the reason... Go ahead.
This is Gail. I'm sorry, I'm on the call now. I was on, but I was on the computer audio, not the phone
Gotcha.
audio. So I'm on the call now. Okay.
Thank you very much,
And
Gail.
I'm the team leader for Florida.
Excellent. And are you a CRS? Refresh my memory.
I'm a CRS, work from home.
Great. And for you guys that don't know what CRS is, it is the customer service relation. What's the R? I always want to say representative, but I know it's not representative.
Relations specialist.
Relations specialist. There it is. Customer relations specialist. So they're the customer service for our program, for our sales partners. So lots and lots of CRSs throughout the country, and they do a great job. So. All right, so we're here to talk about idea generation and help those people that may be struggling or those that just kind of want to talk about this stuff because it's so cool to talk about. A couple of housekeeping rules. If you are joining us via GoToMeeting, if you could please mute yourself unless you're speaking. It prevents feedbacks and creates a favorable environment for learning. And let's try to have one person speaking at a time. One thing that I just want to kind of start the meetings with, and I think this would be a good place to start these, is with the idea generation numbers here. Here in the office, we're having a hard time seeing it because it's a little blurry, but I'm really happy with the way we're going and progressing as far as a company goes. You can see that we're well on pace to meet our 6 implemented ideas per person. If we look at this graph right here, you can see that we are on track for hitting our pace for the 6. This little dotted line right here, as long as we stay above it, we're going to hit that pace, and we're well above it right now, and we are looking to have really our best year to date. So one of my biggest concerns actually, is that what's happening now is happening, the same thing that was happening, sorry guys, the disc golf Facebook there. One of the things that was happening in 2013, which is when we had our best year to date, was that we have a few people are holding the boat for the rest of us. So we have a few teams that are just crushing it, doing really, really well, and a few teams that are doing poorly. So that's averaging a mediocre response. So that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up to this team, is to see what we can do to get that individual ideas per person number up. And I'm really glad that we have Anna here because she's the current clubhouse leader, to see what they can do. Maybe she has some tips to help us think a little bit differently and get some more ideas. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'd like to open the floor to anybody else that would like to speak or have any struggles, have any successes. I have access to everybody's Trello board if we want to go on to Trello for a little bit and take a look at some ideas.
Oh, hey, this is Jennifer.
Hey, Jennifer.
I think I'm the newest team leader, and I've just sort of noticed in my calls that almost, since we sort of got put on hold for GTRACS and P+ enhancements, that's such a huge part of what the CRS team does, and I think they're sort of stuck, not wanting to put in ideas that are, not, I don't want to say that they're not deserving of a green dot, but since we deal with that so much, I think we're all just sort of like, well, how many green dots can you get for organizing your filing cabinet and that type of thing. So I would just want to find a way to inspire them a little more, and myself, honestly.
Sure, I get that. Anybody have any thoughts? I know Erica, you're kind of the lead on that team in the same boat. Yeah.
So I think what we've been trying to do is keep that in mind, that there is not much we can do about GTRACS, but try to work with the situation that we have and try to look for things that we can improve without necessarily touching GTRACS. So maybe we can do certain things different way to make it better and work smarter, even though we cannot change the technology at this point, but what can we do differently to still make everybody's lives better and easier?
Yeah, and that's a hard thing for you guys, because I get that. You're in that P plus G tracks all day long, you know, and that's where you live your life.
We are, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. One of the
That's right.
pieces that I like to tell people is that, you know, you're gonna, if you want that enhancement, what's your ultimate goal? What are you trying to get at? If it's a information improvement, can you find that information somewhere else where everybody has shared access to? One of the easiest ways to get green dots is to give better information to people, because that's what we deal with all day, right? Is information. That's our material that we deal with. So can we provide that information a little bit better? We also have to remember, whenever we're asking anybody to make an enhancement, that's inherently asking somebody else to do something for you. I don't know if you guys got a chance to read the blog today, it was kind of all about what can I do for somebody else. So maybe we need to get away from that thought of, well, I want you to do this for me. Let's think, well, what can I do to make your life easier because you're my customer? So I get that, guys, but we're not going to get around that. That's something that we're going to have to figure out. Be creative. Use that creativity that we have and try to make these changes better. So when you have something that bugs you, you know you can't do it, you can't make the change with G-Tracks or P+, what's another venue we can use? Was that Jennifer that was talking?
Yep, it was me.
So Jennifer, can you give me an example or a card number of one of these G-Tracks enhancements that you're talking about? Maybe we can take a look at it and use a real life example.
Well, there's a bunch. Just thinking of mine, I would have to try to get into the R drive real quick to look at or pull up some of my archived cards. But even little ones, like I had one 2 years ago to make the current date in G-Tracks highlighted so that you're not searching for today's date. You know, something that seems like it would be relatively simple and that wasn't done. Priority Plus, for example, there's one like when you're doing your wearables, which I don't know if any of this makes sense to you as I'm talking about it.
It does.
But when you have colors that P Plus really opened the door for wearables in the terms that now you no longer have to enter 8 lines per color and all that, but it doesn't total your colors for you until you get to review it. So I have an idea out there, I think it's maybe the end of 2015, to make that show you your color totals before you get to review it so you could correct it. You know, just things like that, which affect me every day because I enter orders for my sales partner. I mean, there is a whole bunch out there, but I would have to, go in and get some of those to you if you wanted, more specific other than my ideas.
Nope, those are fine. Those two are fine. So when you're talking about the date, so this is just something, I don't know, maybe it'll spark a different idea from somebody else, but is there any way, you're probably looking at that in your email, right? You're probably going to get an email from somebody, and now you got to go into P+ to look at the date. Is there any way that we can put the date in the email? What's the purpose for having that date right there and highlighted? Can we have that in the subject line of the email, or can we have that date somewhere else that you do have control over that information, so you're always making sure you have the right date? I don't know. Can we get around that P+? And then in the wearables, can you use your search feature in Chrome to find all of your colors? I don't know if there's something in there that we can use. Are there other pieces that we can look at rather than just having IT take care of it for us? Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I can definitely go to that approach.
And you're going to find a lot more success that way. Is there anybody else that has maybe an example of a P+ idea that they thought was a P+ enhancement, but they got around it in a different way?
Jason, it's Kristen.
Hey, Kristen.
Not so much a P+ enhancement, but I know for a lot of people, or at least on our team sometimes, I find that it can be frustration for people. I think that they think of the idea more as this huge thing instead of breaking it up in parts. So what I've been trying to do is if I have a thought or an idea, I might scribble it down in a notebook, but instead of trying to, and getting frustrated thinking of it as this huge idea, if you break it up into parts and think of a small part at the beginning and then go from there and build up, you actually might be able to come up with a more valid idea and even get green dots quicker than trying to look at this big thing overall, go, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get this thing implemented. So I've been trying to like break our ideas down into more segments. So
Yeah.
just a suggestion, if
Do you have an example of one of those?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Of course.
Putting me on the spot, Jason, putting me on the spot. Let's see. You can keep talking, Jason, if you want while I pull this one up. For some reason, my thing is scrolling.
No problem. And Kristen does make a good point where, you know, if you take that big overreaching idea and say, you know, what pieces can we do now that will help you bring those along. The other piece that can be helpful when it's coming up with ideas is what bugs you. You know, what's something that bugs you? So if you find something that bugs you, you know, put it up on Trello and work it. You know, see what other people think about it. There's tons and tons of stuff out there that just doesn't work right. Whether it be standard work, whether it be any of this stuff when it comes to continuous improvement. If it doesn't work, let's try what can we do to fix it. And I know P Plus is one of those things for you guys, that P Plus and G tracks, you know, if they would only do this in P Plus and G tracks. So I get that, I really, really, really do, but that only gets so far. We know that we can't do that. You know, as much as we wish that we could just have those P Plus and G tracks exactly the way we want it and make those changes real time, it's just not feasible for us. Maybe there's a better way if you guys can work on a better way to submit those ideas and work with Carrie and Tara to make sure that you guys are getting those good G-Tracks P Plus enhancements. Maybe it's a matter of a different vetting process, because it sounds like the CRSs honestly just aren't getting heard when it comes to those enhancements. And I have a feeling that if you guys at least felt like your voice was heard, then it wouldn't be so much of a pain point. What do you guys feel about that?
This is Jennifer again. I actually was thinking about that last week. I was thinking, what if there was some way, I was just thinking in terms of my team, that maybe all of the team leaders could do this, like once a month or even once quarterly, if we sent out something to the CRS group on the proposed enhancements and maybe had them vote on it, and then maybe turn in quarterly like the top 3 or something. But it is kind of, you know, when I see now when you're a team leader that, you know, you have these little frustrations that you can't get things through, but mostly I just want to help them feel, you know, empowered, like you said, to maybe simplify things. But I know they also have the fear of putting too many cards in, you know, so there's a fine line between putting every little thing in to get your dot and the bigger stuff that takes time and budget. So I don't know, maybe the voting system, like you said, vetting them in a different way would bring more attention to what we as a whole need as a group. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that, anybody else have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, this is Vicki, Jason. I had an example where I had a person that had no ideas at all, and so one day we set up a meeting to talk to each other. I called and Skyped, and I just started saying, she was newer. She's newer on our team, so of course when you're newer, you don't know if there's already something set up that can help you take away a frustration. You know, you may not know it as much as somebody who's been here for a long time.
Right.
So I started going over what some of her frustrations were, and I said, you know, even if it helps you, if it's not something that's out there for everyone, you can share that with other people, and it still counts as an idea. So she came, I have like an example, her card, 3966. I don't know if you can pull that up.
Yeah. Anna, can you be my keyboard?
Because I
on my
can't remember the-
laptop? 3966.
Yeah. Okay. That is for, oh no, never mind, that wasn't the one. She hasn't put her card up yet. Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay.
She was, I cannot remember the exact thing now, but she was looking for a way, oh gosh, I wish I could, what was it? Let me see if I have it in my notes here for her. It was just a frustration that she was having. Okay. Darn it, I cannot find where I wrote that down. She was just having a frustration with something, so I said, listen, have you looked it up on GNet yet? Well, there were two frustrations she was having almost daily, at least 3 or 4 times a week anyway. And so one of them, we found it on GNet. It was a process of what she could do, and she was doing it differently than, you know, the standard procedure. So then she was fine with that one, but then the other one, we couldn't find anything on GNet. So I said, come up with a listing of how you do this, what would make it easier, and then we can go over that, and if it makes your job easier, then it still counts as an idea, you know? So she did that. She's doing that now, and I guess she just hasn't put the card on yet. But then since Kristen Flaherty and I are on the GNet team to add stuff to that, she'll be giving us that attachment so that we can put it on there for other people to see.
Nice.
So I guess my point is, if it's something that's frustrating to people, that's a really good place to start for your ideas.
Thank you
And
very
they
much.
shouldn't be afraid to make suggestions if
Yeah.
the idea already exists, or like Vicki was saying, if the standard work is already up on GNet, well, maybe that's been sitting up there for 2 or 3 years, and maybe it's kind of old now, and maybe there's a new way of doing whatever that topic might be, and it can be rewritten, or it can be added to, or replaced, or anything. And I think some people get very, not scared, but afraid to touch anything that already exists. And I don't think you should be. It doesn't hurt. What's the worst thing that can happen? It doesn't become an idea. But the best thing that can happen is you get it greened up.
And you're improving somebody else's day, making the process better.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Another place you can think about for getting ideas is going back to the trainings and just taking a look at the slides on the trainings. You know, if it's been a while since you've taken, say, A3 Thinking, and you want to do an A3 project, just go through the slides again and see if there's anything that refreshes your memory. So that's another great way to go for continuous improvement ideas. I say A3 Thinking class because that's probably the one that we use the most actual practical tools from. So, you know, yeah, go back to the continuous improvement page. There's tons and tons and tons of stuff on there that really helps. Another thing for the CRS group, because it is that group that's kind of struggling a little bit right now. You're doing much better than you did last year. I think separating you guys out on the report has helped you guys see how you're doing as an individual. I don't know if the rest of you realize this, but all of these right here are CRS groups, and we split them up from CRS East and West. We divided them up even more so people can see how their progress is doing, and they have a lot of green right there, so a lot of you guys are on pace. We have one team here, the Elite team, the Mid-South, and Service Now. Do we have a representative from any of those teams here?
I'm Mid-South. This is Jennifer.
All right, Jennifer. And you had said you're one of the newer ones, so that makes 100% sense. One of the things I've been trying to tell the CRSs is that you guys work with different sales partners. So you're going to probably do the same process a little bit differently because you have a different customer. You know, and that's okay. You know, if you're going to do something a little bit differently for one sales partner because that's the way they like it, you know, that's fine. You know, that's a green dot. That's okay. Work with your sales partners. Make things easier for them and for you. You know, it's just going to make your day better in the long run. And then when you share that stuff, maybe you can share it with your other CRSs and they can see it and say, hey, you know, I've tried this process before. It sucks. I can't work with my sales partner. It just doesn't work for us. What can we do to change it? You know, it's okay to change things from one CRS to another CRS. There's no rule saying that if you put an implemented idea in, it has to be done by every single CRS across the board. So there's no hard and fast rule like that. So if you guys can find something that works for you personally, that's fine, that's great. Let's make your jobs easier along with other people. So I try to tell the CRSs that, you work with different sales partners, use that to your advantage to get new ideas.
Jason, I would love to know from other leaders that aren't in the CRS group that you have on this call today, if they have any type of suggestions or techniques that they might use to get more team members' participation when they have either their leader calls or an individual meeting or just in idea generation overall. Because I think us talking CRS to CRS is one thing, but having these new calls I think is great because we can talk to somebody totally outside of the CRS group and they may actually have a suggestion that might help us and then vice versa.
Oh no, go ahead.
I think some of it could be the approach that people can take. I think a lot of people feel that getting those ideas is a chore and like, oh, the meeting is coming up, I have to come up with something. So if the approach is shifting instead of like, oh, I need to get the green dot to like, oh, we should improve the process, I think it becomes more natural and easier to do because you're just doing what you're doing every day. You notice something that bothers you, that doesn't make sense, that could be done better, and then you find a solution how to make it better. And guess what? Green dot comes with that. So instead of concentrating on like getting more yellow and green dots, you concentrate like what can I do to make the process better. And I think that takes away some of that pressure that, oh, I have to get those ideas. And yes, you do. This is part of the deal. Like we count them, we report them, so they're still important, but just try to shift the focus from the numbers of green dots to the process itself, and I think it comes more naturally that way.
Thank you, Erica.
Thanks, Erica.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Just that's just been my experience as being someone that's done a lot of idea generation, but not been a leader very long. When I first got here, I've only been here for not even 3 years. When I first got here, was that difficulty of like, I have to sit here and do 6 ideas. Like I have to make sure that I get these done by this time, and the pressure of that, but not even realizing that when I'm complaining about I have to get these 6 done, I've already come up with like 12 or however many. I don't know. Yeah, it's just that's kind of I would echo that same thing where it's just kind of maybe not focusing so much on. You're right, not focusing so much on getting. Oh, I need this X amount of time and these done in X amount of time and all the pressure that comes with that, and rather just thinking about when you're doing something is like, does this actually improve my process, or could it improve somebody else's? So then maybe if they're not certain, like getting in contact with us, because we generally, or in theory, are supposed to know, or even just talking with other team members. I know when I wasn't one, talking with other team members and saying like, this may not benefit me, but would this benefit other people on the team? And then if it does, then it becomes, in my mind, that still becomes an idea.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't benefit you necessarily per se in your workflow, it could benefit others as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're going to implement something that's going to be better for somebody else, that's absolutely a green dot. I do all kinds of stuff that doesn't benefit me, but it benefits the people that I support. So, no, that's a great point. Great point. Thank you for sharing. Anna?
My team actually, instead of going through ideas when we do our idea generation, we go through the Lean Glossary, and I Googled just before the meeting a bunch of different stories about each, so like 7 ways or the successes. So one of the ones that they actually really enjoyed was this thing called the inversion technique. So if you've got a problem, you think of how many ways it could go wrong, and think of all the different things that could come out of this terribly wrong situation, and then working from that point, the worst that it could be, and then choosing your solutions from there. And, I mean, a lot of our ideas are from our processes, but a lot of them aren't from what we're working in, the Excel spreadsheet or the PIM. We're actually, you know, like our Skype groups or like our calendars, it doesn't have to be specifically to the process that we work in.
I want to pull up your Trello board here, Anna.
That's it. You had it at the bottom.
So I'm just gonna grab a random completed card here.
If you want to do
Oh.
373, that one's not related to our processes at all. We were actually having a problem where someone was asking a question in our Skype group, and we totally ignored them, not because we were ignoring them, but we just didn't see it through all of our chatter. So we created a issues Skype group that'll alert us right when someone's actually having an issue with a problem.
Nice. Yeah, the art team did that for Crestline. They created a Skype group so that way art issues could be identified quickly.
CP Web has the same
Yeah.
thing.
Nice.
And then a lot, you know, like card 368 helps us, but also helps a marketing team choose colors. We were having a lot of problems with them choosing a bunch of random colors that we have to build for codes. And now we've supplied them with those actual color codes so they can just pull them.
And so this doesn't help you, this helps a different department?
Well, it helps us too, but it helps marketing as well.
Nice. I like it. Simple. Nice, good, completed idea.
And it wasn't costing money or changing or making enhancements. It was literally just providing another department with a list.
Yep. Oh, that's excellent.
I think that really shows how it just came naturally, because we were probably getting all those requests and like it kept repeating, and then somebody knows, well, if we give them the list, then they'll have to do that anymore, and then it went for everybody.
Yeah, there's a lot of repeat
Yeah.
processes that could really be simplified.
You know, another idea that came on similar lines was Crestline when you guys, I can't remember when we started changing the process, but we would get all the packing information for items, and now Tim does that and updates it on a regular basis. So that was something that you guys were doing anyway, you're contacting the vendors anyway, so it just made sense to have it on that team rather than having the CCS do it on each individual item as they got it. So I thought that was pretty cool too, you know, and that was something that didn't necessarily, it didn't stem from it wasn't, you know, I'm gonna make Tim do this. It was Tim saying, hey, I'm doing this anyway. Is this gonna be helpful for you guys?
Yeah, we
So-
did that with graphics too, for
Nice.
blank images. So now we provide them with a file of all the vendors' images that are blank. We get them anyways, and then we provided them to graphics that they could go and pull them as well.
That's awesome. Do you provide that to the Crestline graphics as well?
They already have it because they access through our folders. So
Gotcha. Nice. So that's even better. You just had to give them access. You didn't have to send it to them. You just give them access.
Yeah.
That's even better. I find that some of the best ideas come from just giving people access. Give me access to this folder and you won't have to send it to me every single time. You know, some of those are just some of the coolest ideas. It's simple, easy, and make a big difference in people's daily lives.
my team also gets together quite a bit, so we're able to
Yeah.
talk through a lot of issues that we have.
Yep.
I know a lot of people can't do that because they've got such big departments, but maybe if they could, you know, parse it out so that they make smaller groups and get together in smaller groups.
And I think that was the goal of the CRS team by breaking them all up like that, was to put them into smaller groups, make them more visible, and make it easier for everybody to meet.
I know with me, the hurdle that, and granted that I've only been doing this for 2 months, so it's not something that's super on my radar right yet. But the hurdle I know that I'm gonna have with my particular group is it's pretty much It's me and like one other web person, and then it's all managers. So coordinating meetings or even being able to have the gumption to say, hey, you need to do your 6 ideas, because I can think of one person on my team who is a higher up manager who has no ideas, and that's gonna be a difficulty for me, I think.
I agree, and you and I can talk separately about that, because I think
Okay.
that that's something that would probably, and if any of you guys have that issue as well with somebody that's, especially the person you're talking about is on the senior management
Yeah.
level,
Yeah.
if you guys have anybody like that that needs a little bit of push, feel free to find me, and I'm more than happy to intervene at that point, because it is a little daunting and nerve-wracking to talk to certain people in certain positions about this idea generation stuff, and sometimes continuous improvement in general. So if you guys come across that and you have a person that's just not on board with it, and you don't feel comfortable talking to them, that's where I come in, that's what I'm good at, so feel free to reach out. And Rory, I'll definitely help you with that, because I'm well aware of what you're talking about and the dynamic there, so. And just to kind of reiterate, go off that, I gave Gene Geiger crap because he was on the ideas behind list at the end of the year last year, and if you look at his ideas this year, he's well on pace to hit his 6. So, you know, the guy, even though his name's on the building here, he's just as accountable to the rest of us, as the rest of us to this stuff. So, just because you're a VIP or a CEO or whatever your titles are, doesn't mean you're exempt to any of the other stuff that everybody else is, we're asking them to do. So everybody's part of it here. So we have about another 5 minutes. I want to let everybody know that I'm going to put the audio file of this up on GNet, so if you guys want to go through and, you know, listen to what we kind of talked about, or I forgot what was that, or, you know, maybe it's somebody else that wants to become an idea generation coordinator. These meetings can maybe help them be more comfortable with the role, and, you know, that way we also don't have to take meeting minutes and we won't forget anything. So I'll put the highlights of the conversation below the audio file, so that way if you don't want to listen to the entire 45-minute audio file, you don't have to. And we'll get just the highlights there. So I will put it up on GNet. It will be under the idea generation coordinator portion of it, so that way you guys will all have access to it.
Yeah. Jason, one other thing that actually came up in our meeting, and Vicki can attest to this because she was on the call, I think, and actually Noel Kaiser came up with the suggestion is, so if you have a group of, let's say, 6 people, and somebody on your group, we'll say her name's Sally Sue, has absolutely no ideas, but you have another person on your team who has already fulfilled their 6, is actually piggybacking those 2 people together and having them help each other out. So in other words, the person who has already fulfilled their obligation of their 6 ideas for the year will work side by side with the person who doesn't have any that might be struggling. And I guess he's been having some individual meetings on his side with his team, and I think that's a great idea, is to have each other help each other out.
I think that's fantastic. I think that more people need to do that, and I'm going to write that down and steal the hell out of that, by the way, just so you know.
That's a good idea.
Well, already
Kind of like a buddy system.
not before I tell Noel that he can put it up there.
That's right.
That's right. No, but I thought it was a great thing because, and Vicki knows as a leader and everybody else who's leaders out there, it can be frustrating. And we don't know, does somebody not have any ideas because they're not trying? Or do they not have any ideas because they're trying, but like you said, what they're coming up with could be P plus and G-Trax enhancements, which we're not really concentrating on right now. There could be a number of reasons why the person doesn't have ideas. So I think it's great to have somebody else on the team who already has fulfilled their obligation to just kind of reach out and be there as kind of like a sidekick that they can bounce ideas off of and kind of work together.
I think that's a great idea, and I'm going to be using that here with some people that may need some help. And I might pilot that with the certain person we were talking about earlier. So that'd be really cool. I like that idea. That's fantastic. I'm absolutely gonna steal that from you guys.
I know on my team.
I'll let you know what card number it is.
I know my team before, someone had said that the reason why they never gave ideas is because they didn't feel empowered. I'm wondering if maybe they don't know that they have the power to come up with ideas.
I think some of it is that, especially with the new associates. So if you have an idea and somebody says, well, no, we've already tried that, or no, well, we can't do that for whatever reason, that really stifles somebody's creativity and doesn't really make them want to continue the process and try it out again. So us as leaders have to be careful not to do that to people, and if we see that or hear that, make sure that we intervene right away, because we don't want to stifle people's creativity. We want people to at least pursue it, and if they determine on their own that it's a roadblock and they can't do it, then they can't. But we shouldn't be telling anybody, hey, that's not going to work, or that we've already tried it, don't even bother. Those shouldn't be, that's not the attitude we need to be presenting here. We need to give that will only work if. So I like to use my example of going to the moon. If I say I want to go to the moon and somebody says, well, that's not going to work, well, that just takes away everything, takes away all my mojo, takes away my steam, But if somebody says, well, you can only go to the moon if you get a rocket ship. All right, well, now my wheels are turning. All right, well, I need a rocket ship. That means I need a lot of money. I'm probably not going to be able to do that. But as a leader, we need to say, well, why do you want to go to the moon? Oh, I'm really interested in how it was formed, It's a big part of the Earth here, and I'm really interested in that piece of it, and the tides and all that. So can we get you a documentary? Is that going to suffice your curiosity? Is that going to help? All right, yeah, no, that's at least an avenue to start with. Maybe I can get to that rocket ship, and 40 years from now I'll be an astronaut, or, especially if this is a little kid that you're trying to promote their imagination and creativity, that nobody's telling me I can't get that rocket ship at some point in my life, but give me that little bit now. Give me that documentary so I can satisfy my curiosity, and at least my manager is promoting that learning environment and taking an interest in what I'm actually saying, rather than just completely shutting me out and telling me to move on. So it's that same mentality. Instead of saying that won't work, that will only work if, and then cradle that person in and try to get them to think of something different to meet that same need.
That sounds like a great idea for an opportunity for an A3. Not a no, it's an A3.
Yeah. Yeah, I created an entire training on that concept. So it's called That's Not Lean. It's what do you do when somebody comes up to you and says, oh, well, that's not lean. That's not a very lean idea. We didn't lean that very well, did we? So it's just kind of that, what do we do with that confrontation when somebody says that's not lean? So that's one of the concepts that I put in there is, that will only work if. So there's a few other ones in there. It's a great training. I'm going to be offering it. I actually just got approved for CAS credits. So that way, if you take the training, you can get some CAS credits for it. So I'll be offering that coming up in the next 30 days or so. And I did get a green dot for that. All right, so that's all the time we have. Did anybody have anything else?
Not me, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think this... Go ahead. I think this was a very successful first meeting. I'm really gonna enjoy having everybody here for the following meetings. I'm gonna make them on the last Tuesday of the month, every month. I will do my best to make every single one of them. I know this coming up month I'm gonna be traveling, so I may not be able to make it, but we'll make arrangements to make sure that you guys can still have these meetings. We'll have somebody else facilitate them. And then so that way, I'd like you guys to be able to continue to meet on these. I think it's important for us to get together more than just once a year to talk about this stuff.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason.
All right, you're very welcome. Any
Thank
feedback is greatly appreciated, so shoot me an email, positive, negative, indifferent, I don't care. I have thick skin, you're not going to hurt my feelings. So please feel free to share any feedback you have, anything you want to see included in these, or something maybe a little bit more structured. What would you guys like to see? So I'm more than happy to try to incorporate anything we want into these meetings, and I want them to be successful because they're really for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much, everyone.